But the Art of Living teachers had much more beta activity than the researchers did. And a demonstration on this slide, I think is quite clear. On the right side, you see the teachers. On the left side are the control group. And the red is all of the beta activity. And you can see how much more beta activity is seen. So this, again, this is heightened awareness. They then took Art of Living teachers, took 5 of them, and they had them do the Art of Living rhythmical breathing practice. And they looked at them at the different stages of the rhythmical breathing, just out of curiosity to see what would happen. And as they went through these stages, they found a lot of alpha waves. Now, alpha waves are those waves in your brain when you're really relaxed. You know, you're in bed and you're about to go to sleep, you're drifting, you feel so good. You feel so wonderful. Your brain's just flooded with alpha waves right there. Now, they found these teachers, their brains were just flooded with alpha waves. At the exact same time, other areas of the brain were having beta waves, right? So they're not only relaxed, but they have heightened alertness. Relaxed, heightened alertness at the same time. A pretty wonderful combination. They also found the left side of the brain, the right side of the brain begin to have the same types of waves. The back and the front of the brain, the inside of the brain, and the outside of the brain. This is a very, very beneficial thing to bring the brain waves into congruence, left to right, front to back. And this slide demonstrates that. You can see when they start, there's not so much of the alpha and beta wave going on. And as they go through the practice, you see different areas of the brain lighting up. Alpha waves over here, beta waves over here. Then it changes as the rhythms change. And as you go through these cycles of rhythmical breathing, you're finding the brain is being dramatically affected by each one of the rhythms. To back up this relaxation that's seen on the EEG study, they then looked at serum cortisol. Now, serum cortisol is a stress hormone, right? It's up when you're under stress, and when you're relaxed, serum cortisol is down. They took 21 healthy adults, ages 35 to 50. 7 of them were Art of Living teachers. 7 of them were beginners who'd never done any practice, and these are going to do the Art of Living practices. Another 7 are just going to listen to music. We had to have a control group, right? So we let them listen to classical music. We thought that's relaxing for most people. Now you can see from this slide, on the left of the slide, the tallest line, the tallest bar, are the people, the beginners who are actually going to do the practices. The line right beside it, the red one, are the beginners who are going to listen to music. Now look at the cortisol levels of the teachers. They're running less than half of the control groups. These are the people that have been doing the practices for a long time. Very low cortisol. Now when they do the practices or listen to music, you see a drop in cortisol in all groups. In fact, listen to music is relaxing. But the group that did the Art of Living practice dropped significantly more than the music group. And look at the teachers, dropped very low. We'll show this in other studies as we go on. It's been looked at other studies, but the cortisol dramatically and reliably goes down after doing these courses, especially if you do them over a long period of time. We then looked at the blood lactate level. Now lactate is another hormone, another chemical actually in your body that goes up when you're under stress, goes down when you're relaxed. Many things affect the lactate level. So we got a homogeneous group of 10 males from a police training college. We looked at the lactate before and after they did the course, and what we found was the lactate dropped dramatically after the course. We followed these men along, and we found that those men who didn't continue to do their daily practices, within just a few days, that lactate level was right back where it started. We then looked at the autonomic nervous system. Remember, there's a sympathetic and a parasympathetic. Parasympathetic sort of keeps you calm. The sympathetic right reacts to stress. What happens when your sympathetic nervous system is reacting, it changes your heart rate. Your heart rate's always varying. If your sympathetic nervous system is having a lot of effect on you, the heart rate has a very slow change to it. If your parasympathetic system is acting on you, it has a very rapid change on you. Basically what we found was that when we looked at the heart rate, then we had people do the Art of Living course, we found that the autonomic system was balanced. And the variability in the heart rate was much, much greater than it had been. And this is associated with cardiovascular flexibility. and within general, and it's been looked at in animals and humans, a state of better health in general. So moving on from the relaxation hormones to the immune system, it makes sense, doesn't it, that stress will affect your immune system. We all know that when we're under a lot of stress, we get sick more often. Ever been a college student or a student in high school, a lot of tests coming on, so much is happening. What happens? You invariably get a cold. How often do you get sick when you're really feeling really well and under no stress? Not very often. So what we did is we looked at the immune system. We took 3 groups of people, our friends, the Art of Living teachers again. We took normal controls, and we took 16 patients that had had cancer and had been treated for it and were in remission. We looked at all their T-cell subsets, and we looked at their natural killer cells. Their natural killer cells are cells in our body that are circulating and they're fighting infection. They find precancerous cells, cancerous cells, they destroy them. So in general, you want to have a lot of natural killer cells. We also looked at the total number of T cells. In general, the higher the better, up to a point anyway. And then we looked at the helper cells, suppressor cells. We looked at the natural killer cells, and what we found was they were much higher in the Art of Living teachers than they were in the cancer patients or the healthy controls. Now, the cancer patients had a decreased number of T cells in general and a decreased number of helper cells. This is primarily a reflection of the treatment that they had all had. But it's pretty interesting that the Art of Living teachers had so many more natural killer cells. We then looked at the 16 patients who had cancer, and what we found was, after having them do the daily practice for 6 months, that though they started out with a decreased number of natural killer cells, T cells, and helper cells, by the end of 6 months, all of these cells had come to the normal level, and in fact, they were higher than the control group. Not statistically significant at that point, but it would be fascinating to study this group of people over a longer period of time. It'd be really interesting to know if there's real clinical significance to these findings. How many people in here take vitamin C? Vitamin E, beta-carotene, selenium, zinc, lots of things, right? These are all antioxidants, right? They're all to destroy these oxygen-free radicals that are floating through our body, giving us disease, or at least adding to it, and aging us a little bit. So then we looked at oxygen-free radicals. It's pretty simple to look at the enzymes that destroy oxygen-free radicals. Every cell in our body has 3 enzyme systems that destroy oxygen-free radicals. There's glutathione, superoxide dismutase, and catalase. So what we did is we took a group of people and we had them do the practice. We drew their blood before, 10 minutes after that, 10 minutes, and 10 minutes later. So basically we drew 4 blood samples. The findings were at 45 minutes, now this is just shortly after the practices, our old friend serum lactate was down, as we'd seen in the police officers, and these enzyme systems were beginning to rise. 10 minutes later, we found that the most important 2, glutathione and superoxide dismutase, were even higher. 10 minutes after that, we found that they were still rising. Now, we've actually taken this study out for days, and what we find is these levels are up for over 24 hours. If you continue your daily practice, these enzyme levels stay up. It's much more effective to do this practice than it is to take your antioxidants. We then took 12 subjects and studied them for 45 days. Studied these same enzyme systems to see what would happen. They were all healthy, on no medications. We took a sample at day 0, day 7, and day 45. And what we found was at day 45, there had been a stepwise increase in the enzyme systems throughout this time. There was a fall in malondialdehyde, MDA. MDA is a really good measurement of what's actually happening in your body. In other words, if there are a lot of oxygen-free radicals in your body, MDA goes up. If there's, in fact, not very many oxygen-free radicals in your body, MDA goes down. And we saw a dramatic fall in MDA. Next we looked at total cholesterol. Now, we took those same people who were being studied for 45 days. We were drawing their blood anyway. And at the time we were drawing the blood for the enzyme levels, we looked at their lipid panel. And what we found was, looking at total cholesterol, there was a dramatic fall by day 45 in the total cholesterol, highly significant. We also found a fall in the LDL, which is the bad cholesterol, and a rise in the HDL, which is the good cholesterol. So not only are the antioxidants being affected in a positive way, but the lipid panel is improving. Now this has some real implications, doesn't it, for people who have hypertension, coronary artery disease. Doesn't take so much imagination. This could help these people quite a lot. So let me sum up all the objective evidence so far. We found that there are changes in the EEG that reflect heightened alertness and relaxation at the same time. There's also left-right integration of brain waves. The serum cholesterol has dropped, especially after prolonged practice. There's normalized prolactin, EEG, and sleep profiles in the depressed patients. We found that the autonomic system is well balanced, leading to cardiovascular flexibility. We found an increase in the natural killer cells, and in fact, an improvement in the entire immune system in cancer patients. Antioxidant systems are stimulated. The lipid profile is improved. Antidepressant, it has an antidepressant effect, an anti-anxiety effect. And we have some preliminary study in smokers and people who drink that show that this is probably going to be helpful in those groups too. We also have some very small studies in people with other disease states, for instance, multiple sclerosis and asthma. They're quite encouraging, but we'll wait and see till we've got some better studies. So I hope I've shown you clearly today that stress is not a healthy thing to have, and that the Art of Living Foundation course is a very effective remedy for stress. Well, I thank you all for being with us today, those of you who are in the room and those of you who are with us electronically. You can get more information about the Art of Living by talking to your local teachers and representatives, or you can contact us through our webpage, artofliving.org. Thank you very much for being here.